All right, now in this video, I'm just going to do a couple of problems that get at that last part, the uses of factoring. Uses. Okay, so one of the things you want to be able to do is to solve a quadratic equation. Okay, so let me find it. So if we had a problem like this that said to solve, and it gave you something like x squared minus 24 equals 5x, we would have to use factoring at some point in that process for now. And then I'm going to do another problem where we're trying to simplify. So those are those two main types of factoring. So we're going to try to simplify x squared minus 5x minus 24 over x squared minus 64. Let's do one that's division because that requires the most work. Okay, make sure I'm copying this correctly. And then down here, what did I have? I had x squared plus 2x minus 3, okay? So these are the two main uses of factoring. So I wanted to just look at a couple problems like that, getting at the basic idea, and then I'll go back to a worksheet we had in class and run through some of those as well, okay? So first off, what you want to do when you're solving a quadratic equation, that has degree 2, and really this is true even if it were degree 3 or 4, is you want to get it equal to 0. And when you do, you're going to do that by using something you learned with equation solving. You're going to want to move that 5x to the other side. So you're going to subtract 5x. All right, when you do, put it so that the terms are in order. X squared minus 5x minus 24. So you have your squared term, your x term, and your constant. And then that would equal 0. Okay, now at that point, we're ready to try to factor, and there was nothing common, so we'd get in here and we'd try to factor. We've done this one earlier, so I'm not going to take all the time with factoring that I normally would, but it's also a pretty easy type because of the understood 1 right there. If it's going to work, it's going to have to be a 3 and an 8, and then I need the 8x to be the negative so that the middle term turns out to be negative. And then I just quickly check that the minus 8 times the positive 3 gives me the negative 24. Okay, now once I'm sure I've got it factored correctly, I'm ready to move on and do the last part. And the last part's going to be to set each of those factors equal to 0. Okay, and you've got a handout that talks about this, and then you solve each of those linear equations. So we come over here, we add 8 to both sides, and we wind up with x equaling 8 or x equaling negative 3, okay? And so those both would be your answer, okay? And of course, what happens in the beginning kind of depends on how things start. So this might be something that requires a common factor to be pulled out, or the factoring might be a lot harder than what this was. But basically, you get it equal to 0 for the first step. Okay, so get it equal to 0. Then you're going to wind up trying to factor. Then you're going to wind up setting each factor to 0. And then you're going to solve each equation. Okay, and that's what that handout kind of delineated. All right, now over on this one, it's very different. So the one use of factoring is when you're solving. The other one is when you're simplifying expressions. And if you're just simplifying one fraction, or if you're multiplying or dividing fractions, what it really boils down to is factoring to cancel out common factors. So if you have a division problem, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to keep, change, and flip. So flip the second fraction. Okay. And then once you do that, you're going to start all your factoring. And really, I like to do my factoring kind of right here, above each of these and below each of these, so I can see what I had. I wish that were a little bit further away. Let me see if I can get a space in there. Let me move that down just a little bit so it's not so connected. Let me see if I can pull it down. Yeah, it's just messing it up. Let me just make it bigger and sorry. Okay. So weird. Get it out of that, back to what I wanted it to be. Okay, let me just get back to it. I was trying to move that down a little bit because I don't want you to get mixed up what I'm looking at, but I think you'll be okay. So I'm looking at how x squared minus 5x minus 24, all these different pieces. What I would recommend is you start with the one that's going to be the quickest and easiest. For me, that would be x squared minus 64, x minus 8, x plus 8. As you start factoring, you start getting a hint about what the other pieces are going to turn out to be. Next, I'd probably do either this one or this one because there's an understood 1 out in front. So I'd be thinking x times x to get the x squared. And then I'm thinking 8 and 5. That's not right. 8 and 3, I should have said, to get 24. And then if I make the 8 negative and the 3 positive, double check it, FOIL it back out, make sure it works. Okay. Then I'm going to move over to this one. And I'm not going to do the one on the bottom because it's harder since it has the 2 there. I'm going to do the one that has the 1. That's an x and an x. And then what's at the end has to be 3. It has to be a 1 and a 3. So then I look at it and I know the 3 needs to be positive and the 1 negative to make the middle term be positive 2x. And the signs do need to be different to make a negative happen like I need. All right, and then finally, I'm going to go down to the one at the bottom, but this time there's a 2 out in front and it's not common. So I'm ready to try to just unfoil. So I'm going to use 2x and x. And then with 8, either the 1 and the 8 or the 2 and the 4. Let me see if I put the correct thing. 2x squared plus 15x minus 8. Okay. And then I'm looking and I'm noticing that, well, you know what? Some of the other factors have an 8. So I think I'm going to use this for my first try. And I normally wouldn't have, but since I saw some 8s in other spots, I might use an 8. So I'm going to put the 1 and the 8. By the way, I know not to put an 8 here because these would have something in common then, and there's nothing common. So if 1 and 8 works, it's got to be 1 here and 8 there. All right, now this is a little harder, so I need to show more. So that's 16x and 1x, and the 16x has to be positive, 1x negative. And then a negative times a positive does give me the negative I need. Okay, now once you get it all factored, see, I guess that's the key. Make sure you get it to multiplication. Get it to multiplication. That's the keep, change, flip. Then you basically factor first, then cancel. And it has to be something from the top with something from the bottom. So cancel the common factors from the top and bottom. See that x minus 8 over x minus 8 would just equal 1. So I can get rid of that. Okay. Let's see. Over here, nope. I was thinking, see how these x plus 8s, I thought they might cancel, but notice the x plus 8s are both on the bottom, so they really don't go away. 2x minus 1 doesn't go away, and the x plus 3s don't go away. So if it were like that, my final answer would have the x plus 3, the x minus 1, another x plus 3 on top, and it would have 2x plus 8s and a 2x minus 1. And that would be as good as it would get. Okay. All right. All right. But what if we had the x squared minus 5x minus 24, the x squared minus 64? What if it started out as a multiplication problem and it had it this way? So this is different. I just want you not to cancel these two because they're in the same location, both on the bottom. They don't cancel, they're both there. But had the original problem, after you got it to multiplication, look like this, okay, then when you get everything factored, you go through the process of getting it all factored, you might be able to cancel out a little bit more, but you just cancel what you can, depending upon the situation. So you get everything broken down. Okay, and so that's how it all would factor, and it's already multiplication now, so that means we're ready to just think about it as a big fraction, and we're looking for common factors, and so then the x minus 8 would go. The x plus 8 would go. Something from the top with something from the bottom, because x plus 8 divided by x plus 8 would always equal 1. I could even knock out the x plus 3s. Okay, this had an x right here. What I couldn't knock out would be the 2x minus 1 on top and the x minus 1 on the bottom. You can't cross out the x minus 1 part of that. Okay, this is like a something in parentheses, so is that. You can't cancel within those. So that could be your final answer right there. And don't knock out anymore. You don't need the parentheses because the fraction bar is a grouping symbol. But for some folks, the parentheses kind of help because you never cut apart things that are in parentheses to simplify. You never knock out the x's. So sometimes it helps to see the parentheses. Okay. All right. So those are a few two problems and one variation that kind of shows you the whole idea of the uses of factoring, okay? All right, so let me go ahead and post this video.